U.S. Central Command confirmed the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier strike group has entered the Middle East region. President Trump has repeatedly warned he could take action against Iran over the killing of peaceful demonstrators. In response, the commander of the Islamic Republic's Revolutionary Guard Corps says his forces have their, quote, finger on the trigger.
Hello and welcome to the Nexus. President Trump promised Iranian protesters help is on its way. But is this Armada, as he calls it, what he means? We'll be taking a close look at its capabilities and asking military experts what might be its prime targets.
National Security Council members of the Islamic Republic, Supreme Leader, top brass of IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps.
Headquarters of the Revolutionary Guard and the Basij, who are involved in suppressing the protests, they haven't been targeted ever.
But first, a quick reminder of how the protests sparked a new war of words between these two leaders.
Protesters have taken to the streets across Iran, angry for the country's deteriorating economic situation.
The protests swiftly turned political and spread nationwide, calling for the end of clerical rule.
It's one of the most perilous situations the Iranian regime has faced in years.
با معترض اما با اغتشاشگر حرف زدن فایده‌ای نداره. اغتشاشگر رو باید به جای خودش نشان.
If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard.
The people of Iran are living through a nightmare.
Human rights groups say more than 5,000 people have been killed.
This is an extermination.
This guy got killed yesterday.
The list of names goes on and on.
These are people who were rioting, and these were people who were shooting at police officers. They were guided and organized from abroad.
This is not a crowd control. This is state terror.
Please help us.
ما رئیس جمهور آمریکا رو مجرم می‌دانیم، هم به خاطر تلفات، هم به خاطر خسارات، هم به خاطر تهمتی که به ملت ایران زد.
Attempts to portray these protests among millions as a foreign conspiracy is an insult to the memory of those who have sacrificed their lives for freedom.
And what it seems to me, Professor, now, is the people of Iran have had enough of this bullshit and they're rising up.
We need to act.
Keep protesting. Help is on its way.
What did you mean by that? What kind of help?
You're going to have to figure that one out.
President Trump said a large armada of U.S. warships heads toward Iran, quote, just in case.
We have a big force going toward Iran. I'd rather not see anything happen, but we're watching them very closely.
There's still a lot of uncertainty about what will happen next. We know that Donald Trump often relies on unpredictability to keep his opponents guessing.
If we don't step in and help them, we are saying the regime is not that bad and we're giving them a death sentence.
If the US attacks Iran, how does Iran respond? Will it hit US targets in the Middle East?
If the United States attacks Iran, without a doubt, Iran will strike back very hard.
Well, joining us today, we have Wes J. Bryant, a US Air Force veteran and former Pentagon analyst. Shahram Kholdi, a professor of Middle East history with expertise on Iran, and former Pentagon and Department of Defense official David Des Roches. Well, welcome to the program, everybody. David, let me start with you. President Trump says, or he did say, that he was doing this to help the Iranian protesters. Do you accept that?
I think that was the impetus for the current movement. Basically, back when the protests, before they were bloodily suppressed, President Trump, I think, wanted to do something, turned to his military experts and was told, I'm sorry, sir, the assets we need to conduct a strike and, more importantly, deter a counterstrike by Iran, those assets are in the Caribbean and elsewhere. And so he had to back off on that while the force package moved into place while the Lincolns steamed from the South China Sea. Now that he has the forces in place and the moment has passed, he's revitalizing his whole Iran agenda. But I think the initial impetus for the confrontation was indeed the protests and Iran's bloody repression of them.
That's so interesting. The lag has caused him to change tack, as it were. So, Wes, what's Trump's motivation here?
You know, I doubt that it's entirely benevolent. You know, we have seen a level of neo-imperialism from the Trump administration, or as some call it, the Trump regime. You know, we've seen the motto, peace through strength, for the national defense strategy. Really what I like to call it is more like submission through tyranny. So I think there's an element of that. Now, whether or not there's some kind of, you know, moral benevolence in this, I think that would be maybe a guess on all of our parts, right?
Well, that's an interesting interpretation. Neo-imperialism, Shahram, do you think it's as rotated around himself as Wes puts out?
I think new imperialism actually started by Putin and by President Xi Jinping during the time that perceived the United States is weak, especially during the times of President Obama and President Biden, with a catastrophic failure in dealing with the problems of the Middle East, especially the catastrophic withdrawal from Afghanistan, which basically signaled to Putin and later Hamas that they could do anything with impunity. So the fact is that with Donald Trump, as he has always stated, he's an America first kind of person. So, and he always goes for the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to the US interests. So I do not really see how different this is in general with the US hegemonic international relations attitude since the beginning, of the Cold War. It is just that he does not operate by, as Prime Minister Carney of Canada stated in Davos, he does not pay lip service to those rules that everybody pretended did apply. But in the end of the day, the P5 always, one way or the other, broke them or allowed some of their client states to break them with impunity. With Trump, in this case, we have to say that, and I will close it here, with Trump in this case, it is a seamless fusion of humanitarianism on the facade of it, but with a keen interest to secure America's interests.
Well, three different perspectives, each of you making quite interesting points. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of the actual Armada, as President Trump calls it. What's it capable of? This is Carrier Strike Group 3, the American naval force that has Iran in its sights. At its center, an aircraft carrier, the USS Abraham Lincoln. You may remember it as the backdrop for George W. Bush and his confident Iraq War photo op in 2003.
Major combat operations in Iraq have ended. In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed.
It's one of America's Nimitz-class nuclear-powered supercarriers, over 330 meters long and 100,000 tons. The only thing bigger out there is the USS Gerald R. Ford, currently holding together the naval blockade of Venezuela in the southern Caribbean. Just like the Ford, the Lincoln is escorted by other, smaller warships, including 3 Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers. This is exactly the same class of ships the US used to attack a Syrian airbase in 2017. 59 Tomahawk missiles. President Trump's punishment for Bashar al-Assad, who used chemical weapons on his own people. Not only can they launch Tomahawk missiles, together the escort ships operate the Aegis combat system, creating a layered defensive shield around the group. Below the surface, a fast attack submarine will typically be defending against enemy subs, carrying out surveillance, and are also capable of launching Tomahawks. On board the Lincoln itself, an extensive air wing, up to 90 aircraft, including state-of-the-art and stealthy F-35Cs used to take out air defenses and map the battlefield, and F/A-18 Super Hornets, which follow up with its greater array of weapons. In military slang, the F-35 is the door kicker. The F/A-18 Super Hornet is the bomb truck. David Des Roches, President Trump, in a recent Truth, has said that the Armada, as he puts it, that he's sending into the Middle East is bigger than the one that he sent to Venezuela. And he's implying you know what happened there. So what's the message here?
I think the message to Iran is we're coming for you. So if he offers an alternative, which I think he always does. Look, Trump's autobiography was not the art of achieving goals through the application of power. It was the art of the deal. So I think his message is, if I offer you a deal, take it, and not endless talks. And he's made his demands rather explicit. So I think that's it. I think militarily, I think that the force package in the South Caribbean was bigger, and I think the force package for Midnight Hammer was bigger. But there's a lot we don't know. So, there's probably assets we don't know about.
Yeah. Wes, you led strike operations against ISIS in the Middle East. I know you doubt Trump's motivations and intentions. Nevertheless, what is this naval force capable of, and what are its limitations?
Right. And, I think we can all agree that the Iran regime is not our friend, and it's not the friend of the Iranian people. For a typical carrier strike group, we've got the carrier, the aircraft carrier itself, which carries, anywhere from 75 to 90 aircraft, about 2/3 of which can be strike-capable fighters or bombers, right? We've got a guided missile cruiser, which is kind of the command and control for defense of the fleet. And then we've got all these destroyers, which can carry out anti-ship, anti-submarine, anti-air-to-surface defense, right? And then they can also attack shoreline. We also can have a submarine attached, and that's what we've seen typically, our Ohio-class submarines, which carry our tactical land attack missiles, the Tomahawks, right? Which can have a range of about out to 12 to 1,500 nautical miles. And with that, they could have also attached an amphibious readiness group, which can, deploy the up to 5,000 plus Marines out to a coast. And we've got plenty of coast to use right along the Persian Gulf.
Right. Shahram, let's look at the Iranian government's ability to defend itself. It's put up this massive poster in Tehran showing US fighter jets destroyed on the deck of an aircraft carrier. And this message in English: if you sow the wind, you will reap the whirlwind. Shahram, how seriously should the United States take a threat like that?
I think the United States should err, in my opinion, still on the side of caution. However, use the Israeli experience of the 12-day war, to which it briefly interjected by destroying largely Natanz and Fordo nuclear sites. But I would like to differ a little bit, with all due respect, with my colleagues here. The day before yesterday, Mr. Larijani, who is one of the closest allies and I would say consiglieres of Mr. Khamenei, the supreme leader, said that within 2 to 3 weeks, the Islamic Republic can build a nuclear weapon. And this must have bothered the Israelis. And if President Trump hesitates too much, the Israelis, who always have had better knowledge of the Iranian defenses, may decide to take matters again to their own hands. So Iran, the Islamic Republic, tried to rebuild its air defense and its ballistic missile system throughout the past 6-7 months. However, we do not know how much the Chinese have given them in terms of air defense, and we do not know how much they have been successful in rebuilding their ballistic missile capabilities, mainly through launchers. If they can launch about 600 to 700 missiles towards the Abraham Accord allies in the Persian Gulf region, as well as towards Israel, it is inevitable that Israel will strike back, and this will escalate into something much larger. And I think it is in anticipation of this type of reaction that President Trump is trying to go all in as much as he can with coordination with Prime Minister Netanyahu, as Prime Minister Netanyahu said it in so many words yesterday, whilst respecting, quote unquote, whatever President Trump says with respect to a deal and everything like that.
David, should the crew of the Lincoln be worried?
I don't think so, no. They'll keep at a distance. They'll be moving around. The three ships, Peterson, Spruance, and Murphy, that are with it are their primary mission is probably air defense. So of the 90 missile launcher cells they have, probably about half of those will be dedicated to air and missile defense. I think that what they'll do is launch aircraft that will be refueled en route to try to avoid coming within easy range. I think what we're likely to see in at least the short term is a series of close flybys to try to determine exactly what the distinguished professor just mentioned, to determine what the true state is of Iranian air defenses, if they've actually reconstituted, and then to locate those air defenses. The missiles are a little harder. So that will be a matter of concern. But if there is effective targeting of the Lincoln, then that's the end of aircraft carriers in U.S.
Right. Right. Wes, some of the Iranian leadership have warned that every U.S. base is a target. We're looking at a map now of the different bases in the region. Let me ask you, do the Iranians have the military capabilities to hurt the United States or its allies?
Yeah, they do, and that's their method is twofold. That's their ballistic missile capability, which extends at least previous to the June 2025 operations with U.S. and Israel, right? They had capabilities that could extend out 1,500 nautical miles, so easily reach U.S. troops in the region. We've seen relative restraint, ironically, from the Iranian regime in their previous ballistic missile attacks. So there's, and again, as my colleagues here previously mentioned, we don't know the existing capabilities of the Iranian regime, even though they've been degraded previously. We can assume they've been building those capabilities back up. And then the second fold of this is the what we call the axis of resistance, as we know, right, throughout the Middle East. HEZBOLLAH, HAMAS, Shia militia groups. We've already seen years of Shia militia group attacks against U.S. forces. So I think we can see that kind of two-pronged methodology here. We also run the risk of global terror attacks, with cells being activated even here in the States or in Europe.
David, a quick response?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that is really remarkable is Iran does have a global terror network, and we didn't see it. They were deterred from acting over the summer when they were exchanging missile strikes. But Iran's greatest success in intelligence was against the Jewish Community Center in Buenos Aires. They killed many people. And there is, among the Iranian diaspora, which is global, significant intelligence presence that can be activated. They've conducted terrorist strikes in Nairobi, in Romania, places that you don't ordinarily expect. So this is a major consideration, I think.
Shahram, the specter of Iran's proxies?
Over the past 3 years, since Hamas attacked Israel on 7th of October, the global network of the Islamic Republic terrorist allies became more active. But on the other hand, all the Western allies and the Five Eyes equally became active in trying to deter and confront these threats. So it would be a colossal mistake on the side of the Islamic Republic if it chooses to activate its global terror network.
Let's just pause for a second and hear from the well-respected Iranian defense analyst Farzin Nadimi. We asked him what the United States would consider prime targets at this stage.
It depends. If they're going for a very symbolic operation, they might go for the mausoleum of the founder of the Islamic regime, the multi-billion-dollar shrine of Ayatollah Khomeini. That could be a very symbolic option, target. or they can go after those security headquarters that were very much involved in killing and massacring civilians, like the Nasrallah headquarters, the IRGC security headquarters in central Tehran. They could go after the police headquarters or special police headquarters, IRGC command centers. Some of them were struck by Israel during 12-day war, but they might go after those targets again. For a more comprehensive operation, they might go after smaller scale military bases and besiege and IRGC bases even in provincial capitals or smaller towns that, again, were, according to intelligence, were very much involved in killing people. They might go after certain military leadership. They might go after communications and surveillance headquarters. Those locations that receive the CCTV feeds and go out, they continue to go after people and review those videos and go after people that they identify using those CCTV footages. And they could also go after some military targets, more traditional, more conventional air bases, naval bases as well.
Shahram, just briefly, do you agree with that analysis broadly?
I absolutely agree with that analysis. National Security Council members of the Islamic Republic, Supreme Leader, top brass of IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, are going to be very important targets that President Trump should consider.
And David, we talked about the symbolic targets, the specific military targets that would be of the highest value.
Headquarters of the Revolutionary Guard and the Basij, who are involved in suppressing the protests, they haven't been targeted ever. The problem is they're dispersed. Of course, anything kicks off with suppression of enemy air defense. You can't really do anything without that. We just don't have enough missiles. We have to bomb with gravity bombs from airplanes. And then if the assessment showed reconstitution or unfinished activity at the nuclear sites, and suppression of the erector sites for missiles.
And Wes, if you were organizing such an operation, what would you be prioritizing?
I agree. To emphasize, the priority would be on suppression of enemy air defenses. We know they have fairly capable, though dated, Soviet systems and possibly Chinese as well. And we don't know the status of those at this time. I'm sure someone in our intelligence community does, at least to some degree. So that would be the initial. And then following, I believe really what will be on the table is focusing on the Revolutionary Guard versus the majority of the conventional forces and senior leaders and command and control. As far as hitting any shrines or anything of that aspect, these would be violations of both international law and U.S. law. I would be very shocked if the U.S. carried anything like that out against Iran. And I just wouldn't see it.
Shahram, we're coming towards the end of the program. Many Iranians in the diaspora and inside the country perhaps will be hoping that Trump sees his promises through. But what if he doesn't? What if, like Joe Biden with Afghanistan, he hesitates or he blinks, as it were? Could that lead to terrible unintended consequences?
I think so. With respect to Iranians inside and outside Iran, I can promise you that President Trump will be seen in the eyes of Iranians the same way that they are disdainful of President Carter because of his treatment of the late Shah in 1979, and President Obama for not supporting them during the 2009 protests. And finally, if Trump blinks in the middle of this action, he will be sending a signal of weakness and lack of credibility to both China and Russia, who will be upping the ante and would be trying to push the United States on all fronts as much as they can.
Is he trying to misdirect the Iranian regime when he says make a deal? He still seems to be prepared to make a deal.
Yes, he does. And that is a problem. If Iran is not Venezuela, and he is actually using Ms. Machado in order to get even more points and I would say deals out of the present Venezuela ruling elite. The problem with the Islamic Republic is that the Islamic Republic will promise anything in order to stay in power, and then will cheat and will backstab President Trump. And if he wants not to become a lame duck president in the next 2 years, humiliated by the Islamic Republic, he must go through with what he has promised.
David, how far can Trump go with this military operation before people back home will say, you're going to need congressional authority here?
Yeah, so people have already said that. But as a practical matter, he has one fiscal year. So he can pretty much operate from all the way up to 31 October with existing funds. And then if Congress passes legislation forbidding it or cutting off funding, then he has to stop. So right now, what that means is he pretty much can do what he wants as long as it's successful. If it goes pear-shaped, he'll get the rug pulled out from under him.
David Des Roches, Shahram Kholdi, and Wes Bryant, thank you all very much. Really appreciate that. And thank you at home and on your phones for watching. If you want to see this episode or any of our previous episodes, go to our channel on YouTube. Just type in Nexus TRT World. Till next week then, goodbye.